Hello and welcome to the Malt Lab. I'm your host, and I'm going to bring you some whiskey reviews with a different twist. So I'm going to do the traditional thing where I'm going to nose and I'm going to give you my description of the palate. But I'm not a whiskey expert. I'm a home scientist, let's say. So I'm going to use the tools in front of me to try to communicate my experience, which is probably not going to be your typical whiskey reviewer. So sit back and let's experience something together. So I'm going to start with one of my new favorites, Bowmore 12. It's a Islay single malt Scotch, aged 12 years, in the inland of the island of Islay in Scotland. And what's special about this whiskey is that it's made by Bowmore, obviously, but they're the oldest distillery in Scotland, and they're particularly known for their #1 vault, where this whiskey lived its 12 years in that cask. So that's I believe, the oldest vault in the region, possibly the world, actually. So if I'm wrong, leave it in the comments. I'll update this video. So here's how the product sold to me. I think it was around $63 Canadian, where I'm able to buy it, and that's quite a reasonable price for this. We've got 40% ABV and a 750 milliliter format. Unboxing reveals. We've already done a little qualitative review personally, and I can say I quite enjoyed it. It's a mild Islay, so if you're a Lafroig fan or the such, you'll probably be familiar with this whiskey. But if not, it's sort of the entry point into Islay Scotches. It's peated for sure, but the peat's an inland peat, so that traditional brine and soil that you taste from a coastal Islay peated Scotch, you're not going to find that here. The peat they use is inland, I believe near a lake, so that sort of soil characteristics there, but it's less maritime, let's say. So here's our bottle, and have a good look at our color. I found about 50 milliliters in a beaker, transferred to a very small boiling flask. This is a 50 ml. That gives us two things. So I now have a single serving decanter, and this allows me to produce some oxygen interaction with the alcohol, and then that really opens up the smells and aromas, and gives us an opportunity to experience it in a way we wouldn't if we were swigging it from a bottle in a paper bag, let's say. So while that develops, our beaker is now well coated with our product, and that's what I'm going to nose. It's going to give me all of the characteristics already all opened up and fully exposed to oxygen. Get our bottle back in frame. So as I nose that, all of the peat characteristics I just talked about, they're there for sure. They're the defining characteristic of the whiskey. But not as your typical peated Scotch. They would define it more than this. So through the peat smoke, you can definitely get a little bit of a nose of the wood char, likely from the casks. Also, you get a small amount of citrus, a little vanilla, your typical aromas. I'm going to leave the subtlety to you, because really, once you get past the peat and the smoke, you're getting into a region where you really need to have a developed palate. And if you do, you're probably not watching this video for the review. So our flask has now developed a little bit. I'm going to add a little to our glass here, our beaker. 20 mils. We'll let that develop just a little bit. I'm going to nose that again directly. Yeah, As you do that, the peat aromas, they really kind of jump back out again. And it's probably now opened up quite nicely. Let's have another sip. Okay, here's where the citrus that they claim on the label really shines. So, yep, for sure. We've got citrus, vanilla, almost like a citrus peel, like a lemon rind or something. Very delicious. Okay, so the next test we're going to do, and the last before we see you off, is we want to validate that the label is actually correct. We were told this was a 40% ABV whiskey. So let's confirm that, roughly, with our portable refractometer. Now this beautiful device uses the refractive properties of light to give us an approximation of what the alcohol percentage is. Now, people in the comments are going to jump out and tell me that this is not an accurate measurement because we don't have a initial gravity reading of the original whiskey. And that, while that is correct, I've found, particularly with spirits, that makes very little difference. As you can see, well, maybe you can't see this. As you can see, we're right above 40%. And with my caveman understanding of this tool, I'm willing to accept that that label is 100% correct. I've yet to find one that was not correct, but it's a fun experiment to do, and it helps us understand the product. And really, when it comes to Scotch, it's not a product we're sitting down to drink and get intoxicated from. It's really just a qualitative product we want to enjoy and experience. So, having fun with a tool like this is just another way to do that. So with that aside, and my camera battery about to run flat, I'll say goodbye, and I would highly recommend your budget-conscious smoky whiskey fans, go grab a bottle of this. It'll help dilute your inventory of $100 scotches, because this is a really accessible, intermediate smoked whiskey that a new fan such as myself can immediately get into, or a hardcore peat person could use as their Wednesday night. So, see ya!